Hi there! Are you somebody who's preparing for IELTS and finding matching headings in IELTS reading really tough? Well, then you're not alone. When we put forward this question in front of our students, like which is one of the most difficult question types when it comes to IELTS reading, majority of the students voted for matching headings. Now, what is the problem with matching headings? Before that, you need to understand what you have to basically do, or what is the underlying principle of matching headings. Now, matching, the word matching generally refers to what? Like there'll be two entities and you're finding a connection or relation between these two entities. That's what you mean by basically matching. Now, matching headings, what does that mean? A paragraph will be given to you, and what is the most appropriate heading or a topic that you can give for that paragraph? Now, what you should be careful when choosing a heading is that the heading should be chosen in such a way that it covers all the aspects that are included in that paragraph. For instance, suppose if I'm writing a paragraph, for instance, I write, my name is Alexa, I'm 25 years old, I've completed my graduation in computer science from the AG University, then my hobbies are reading and listening to music. I come from a nuclear family, then I'm a very hardworking and optimistic person. Okay, so these are the information that you find in this paragraph. Now, will it be okay if I chose the heading as educational background of Alexa? Will that be okay? Or will it be okay if I say qualities of Alexa? Will that be okay? Or if I say Alexa's hobbies? What about that one? Or just think about this one, Alexa's profile. Which do you think is the most appropriate one? Undoubtedly, it is Alexa's profile, because Alexa's profile, that caption actually covers the entirety of the paragraph. Now, if I say Alexa's educational background, you're just focusing on one aspect in that paragraph. Same goes with the other options. When I say hobbies or when I say qualities, you're just focusing on one aspect in that paragraph. But heading should not focus on just one aspect, but it should focus on the entirety of the paragraph. Now, this is the principle that you have to apply in your IELTS reading. You might feel that, okay, it's not as simple as it sounds. Yes, of course, I do understand that. The content that you get to read will be more of academic. The tone would be academic. The content would be academic. But the principle that you need to keep in mind is this. You should not go for matching certain aspects in the paragraph. Rather, you have to quickly read the paragraph, get the gist or summary of it, and then try to find the match. So with that, we are getting into the video. Now, I'll show you how this matching heading questions will appear in your IELTS reading. Now, this matching heading questions usually comes before the passage begins. You have three passages or three parts in your IELTS reading. So this matching heading questions always appears before the beginning of the passage. And how it appears is like this. The instruction would be given. Reading passage, that is the general instruction, sorry. Now, this is the instruction for matching headings. Choose the correct heading for sections B to F from the list of headings below. So, you'll be given a list of headings. This is the list. Now, this is the list of headings from which you have to match the answer. That is, these are the choices of headings they have given. Always the list will be given inside a box like this. The list of headings will be given inside a box. And what you need to do is, in the passage there would be multiple sections. Here you can see B, C, D, E, F. 5 different sections given here. And for each section you have to read that section and find the appropriate heading from the list given here. That is what you have to basically do. And then you can see the instruction, write the correct number 1 to 9. Now here, for the list of headings, the numbering is done in Roman numerals. It will always be done in Roman numerals. So 1 to 9 headings are given inside the box. And then for the questions 1 to 5, you have to give the corresponding heading number which you find as the appropriate match. For instance, if you find for section B, no, they have given an example here. section A, answer 4, which means that for the paragraph section A, the most appropriate match is this heading 4. So we will not be writing the heading as such, but the number, Roman numeral corresponding to that heading will be written onto the answer sheet. So this is the pattern that you have to follow. Now you'll have to start from section B. Section A is already given as an example. It's not necessary that always an example would be given. Most of the times an example would be given. In that case, you can completely skip that section. You don't have to consider or read that section again. You can start directly with section B. Now you have to read section B and then understand the summary or gist or essence of that paragraph and go through the list of headings and find which heading best fits for that paragraph. Now this is how the question will appear. Initially you will have this instruction, then the sections would be listed and the headings would be listed inside a box. Then the passage begins. Like as you can see, the paragraphs here, A, B. Now it's not necessary that one section means one paragraph. In some cases, one section can include more than one paragraph. As you can see here, section B has 2 paragraphs, 1 and 2. Then section C, section D, section E again has 2 paragraphs, section F as well. So this is how it will appear. Now that you have understood the format or how the question appears, let's move on. Now what's the general strategy, in what way you have to approach? Read the passage title. That is, the entire passage which comprises of all these paragraphs will have a main title. Now as you have seen here you can see Land of Rising Sun. That is the caption. So we have heard Land of Rising Sun, Japan. So it might be something related to Japan, but it's not sun, but some. Maybe something related to maths. So to get an overall idea of what the passage would be, it's always good to read the caption, getting ourselves prepared for what you can anticipate in the passage. Then, okay, read the passage title, read all the headings, highlight keywords, go through all the headings. We might not remember all of them, but just highlight the keywords, the main words, which will actually help us in choosing or matching the answer. Whatever words you feel it as keywords, highlight them, underline them. Then read the first section which is mentioned in the question. Then try to find the match for that. Then move on to the next section. You might feel it's not that straightforward, I do understand, but this is a general approach that you have to take when it comes to matching heading questions. And something that you have to remember, each heading can be used only once. You cannot use a heading more than once. Once you have used a heading for a specific paragraph, then strike that out. You should not be using that for another paragraph. It makes things easier actually. Now the options from which you have to pick the right answer gets reduced. So once you use a caption, please strike that out. Then there are more headings than sections. This also you have to keep in mind. Like suppose if you have 5 sections, you won't be having 5 headings exactly. You'll be having more number of headings. That is another thing that you have to understand regarding matching headings. Now with this, shall we start? So the first one was done as an example. For section A was already done as an example and the answer for that was given as option 4. So we can strike this out. We need not consider this in our search for the heading for section B. Now section B. Let's start reading section B. Lower secondary schools. Before that we need to highlight the keywords in the headings, okay? First one, the influence of Montbuscho. So Montbuscho, of course, nouns are always keywords. So influence of Montbuscho is a keyword. Then helping less successful students. So is there any paragraph talking about less successful or weak students? Then the success of compulsory education. Anything about mandatory or compulsory education. This is completely out. Then the typical format of a maths lesson. How is the structure or format of a maths lesson? Comparative expenditure on maths education. Is the expenditure being compared anywhere? Any relative study on the expenditure? Then another thing is background to middle years education. Are they talking about middle years education? Means between the age of 12 to 15, that is middle years education in Japan. Background of that is being mentioned in any paragraph. Then the key to Japanese success in maths education. What is the key to Japanese success? The main reason. Then the role of homework correction. The role of homework correction is any paragraph detailing about homework correction. With that, we are getting into the first question, that is section B. Let's start reading. Lower secondary schools in Japan cover 3 school years from 7th grade, that is age 13, to 9th grade, age 15, lower secondary school. Now, we just in the list of headings, we noted something, not the same word, not lower secondary school, but we read something like middle years education, and I mentioned it's something somewhere between the age group of 12 to 15. So maybe that can be the answer, but don't jump into conclusion. Then how did that paragraph start? Lower secondary schools in Japan cover 3 school years from the 7th grade, that is 13 years of age, to 15 years of age, that is 9th grade, 7th to 9th grade. Virtually all pupils at this stage attend state schools. Only 3% are in private sector. Schools are usually modern in design, set well back from the road and spacious inside. Classrooms are large and pupils sit at single desks in rows. Lessons last for a standardized 50 minutes and are always followed by a 10 minutes break, which gives pupils a chance to let off steam. Teachers begin with a formal address and mutual bowing and then concentrate on whole class teaching. Then we also saw an option like format of a lesson. So in this part, they are saying how the format of a class is like it lasts for 50 minutes, then you have a 10 minutes break, then pupils get a chance to relax. Then they say that teachers begin with a formal address. So something regarding the format of classes have been mentioned there. Now maybe we don't know, so the format of maths lesson, will that be the answer? Now we have 2 options in mind, either like it can be 7 or can it be 5, but don't jump into conclusions. Then classes are large, usually about 40, and are unstreamed. Pupils stay in same class for all lessons throughout the school and develop considerable class identity and loyalty. Pupils attend the school in their own neighborhood, which in theory removes ranking by school. In practice in Tokyo, because of the relative concentration of schools, there is some competition to get into better schools in a particular area. Now, in general, what are they talking about in these 2 paragraphs or in section B? They are talking about the lower secondary school system in Japan, about the placement, how they are placed. They are set well back from the road, they are spacious. Then about the classes, they are big. Then number of students, how the format of the classes, how it goes. So in general, they are talking about lower secondary schools. Now we had confusion, or we had this ambiguity between 2 options, whether they're talking about the format of maths lesson. But the format of lesson is just mentioned there. But can we say it covers the totality of the 2 paragraphs or the sections? No. When you look at it from a wider perspective, it's talking about this lower secondary school education system in Japan. And inside that, one aspect they have just mentioned is how the classes, just the overall format of the class is also mentioned, not in detail, but they have just made a reference to the format of the class. So we have to always look at the broader perspective, because we are choosing a heading and we are not matching information. For that reason, we can conclude that 7 is the right answer. So we are choosing background to middle years education in Japan as the right answer. Now you cannot see middle years education in the paragraph. Do you see that word? No. It has been put in a different way as lower secondary school education. So that is how it works. Just like I mentioned my initial example, I mentioned about Alexa, Alexa's profile. Was the word profile anywhere in that introduction? No. A lot of details were given. But when you chose the heading, you chose Alexa's profile with a word. The word profile is nowhere mentioned in that paragraph. The same theory is applied here as well. You understand the meaning and then go for matching the heading. Now, shall we try another question? So, for this we have already got section B, we have already got 7 as the answer, which means that we can strike out this as well. 4 was already given as an example, so 2 of the options eliminated. We are left with the remaining. Now we have to focus on section C. Section C is just one paragraph. Let's see what it has to say. Traditional ways of teaching from the basis of the lesson and the remarkably quiet classes take their own notes of the points made and the examples demonstrated. Everyone has their own copy of the textbook supplied by the Central Education Authority, Monbusho. Okay, we have highlighted Monbusho and the first reference of Monbusho comes here. But it's not time for us yet to decide whether that is the right answer. Then, as part of the concept of free compulsory education up to the age of 15, these textbooks are on the whole small, presumably inexpensive to produce, but well set out and logically developed. One teacher was particularly keen to introduce color and pictures into maths textbooks. He felt this would make them more accessible to pupils brought up in a cartoon culture. Besides approving textbooks, Monbusho also decides the highly centralized national curriculum and how it's to be delivered. So it is, of course, this paragraph is talking about Monbusho, and what does the heading regarding Monbusho say? The influence of Monbusho. And what is this paragraph ending with? Monbusho also decides, which means it's talking about the influence it has on Japanese education. So for that reason, we can definitely or confidently select 1 as the matching heading for section C. So 1 is the heading for section C. Now, one more thing that you have to keep in mind is that, okay, like you found a relatable matching heading. Now you have 2 options and you decide between the 2 and you confirm 1. Even then, you just go through the rest of the options to ensure that they are in fact not the right headings or not the matching headings for the section that you are analyzing now. Okay, now let's try one more example. Now let's look at section D. It has 2 paragraphs. Before that, let me strike out the sections that we have, or the headings which we have already selected. For section B, we have chosen 7, and for section C, we got option 1 as the answer, which means we can strike out this and strike out this. So the number of options getting reduced. Now let's focus on section D. Lessons all follow the same pattern. So they're talking about the opening. Actually, the opening of the paragraph hints on what is being discussed in that paragraph, but we cannot be sure like the idea will be same throughout the paragraph. But anyways, we have understood that it's starting off with the pattern of the lessons, and we have something related to that. That is the typical format of a maths lesson. So maybe that can be the answer, but let's not decide. At the beginning, the pupils put solutions to the homework on the board. Then the teachers comment, correct and elaborate as necessary. Pupils mark their own homework. This is an important principle in the Japanese schooling as it enables pupils to see where and why they made mistakes so that these can be avoided. So something regarding the homework is also mentioned, and the importance of homework correction is mentioned, because how it helps the students, that is also mentioned here. And we have another option regarding that. See, the role of homework. So this is there, and like something regarding the format of maths lesson. Okay, we have 2 now in the bucket. No one minds mistakes or ignorance as long as you are prepared to learn for them. Then, okay, they've talked about homework and how important it is. Then they're continuing. After the homework has been discussed, the teacher explains the topic of the lesson slowly and with a lot of repetition and elaboration. Examples are demonstrated on the board. Questions from the textbook are worked through first with the class, and then the classes set questions from the textbook to do individually. Only rarely a supplementary worksheet distributed. The impression is that of the logical nature of the textbook and their comprehensive coverage. So what do you understand? Is it focusing on the homework correction alone? No. This section clearly shows the format of the lesson, how it is being conducted. What does the teacher do initially? Writing like solutions of the homework on the board, then the pupils correcting it, the students correcting it, then after the homework discussion, then giving examples. So the complete format of the lesson is being described in this section. So we can very surely or very certainly say that section D, the heading for section D is of course this 5th heading, that is the typical format of a maths lesson. Now for confirmation, we can just go through the other headings as well. Helping less successful students, did we have any mentioning about weak students or less successful students in this section? No, this reference was not there. Then the success of compulsory education, no, nothing mentioned about mandatory or compulsory education, no. Then this comparative expenditure, nowhere expense was mentioned in this section. Then the key to Japanese success, they have not in general talked about the success, the key to Japanese success, no. Then of course homework was mentioned. This is something that might confuse you all, this and this. But again, as I mentioned, like the rest of the options, we are very sure that either we have striked it out because we have already selected it for a previous question, or else we have eliminated them because there is no such reference of these headings in the given section. And now we are left with 2 options. From there, we have to choose the right one by looking at the broader perspective. Of course, this homework correction is mentioned, but why we have not gone for that is because it's just one aspect mentioned in that section and it does not cover the entirety of the section. For that reason, 5 is the right answer. Okay, now we are concluding the session. Like there are a few more questions which you may try it on your own. Like you can see it on the screen. You can pause and try out these examples. E as well as F. Try it out and post your answers in the comment section. Now, let me summarize by just reinforcing these points. Match all the headings on the question sheet, then transfer your answers to the answer sheet. See, you have a separate question booklet and you have the answer sheet. So don't immediately mark or record the answer onto the answer sheet when you find a match. No, you do the matching for all the sections, and once you're finalized with all the headings, only then transfer the headings or the answers onto the answer sheet. Maybe like initially you might feel one as maybe the heading, 3rd heading as the right answer. Then when you analyze the next section, you might feel that, okay, this answer was more suitable for this. So you might erase and change it. So once you're done with the entire matching heading section of questions, only then transfer the answers onto the answer sheet. Then if you are confused between 2 options, note both the answers. That is one thing, like you are not able to decide between 2 headings. You feel both are fine. Then just make a note of both these answers beside that section. For example, you have A, B, C. And for section B, you feel that heading 2 is also fine and heading 5 is also fine. Then write down these 2 headings, both of these headings beside this question number. Suppose the question number is 1, 2, 3. Against B, you write both of these options. Now, why I tell you that you write both of these options? Maybe later on when you are reading section D, you very surely conclude that 5 is the answer for D. Then you can strike out 5 from here and confirm 2. Okay. Then if you're not certain about your answer, put a question mark. Now suppose you have not got the answer to section C. Don't just waste time on that. Just put a question mark there and move on to the next section. After completing all the questions, then you can get back to this one. If you can't, this is what I've already mentioned. If you can't find the answer, move on. Go through all the questions, then come back to those you couldn't answer. If you cannot find the answer, just put a question mark and set it aside. Once you're done with all the sections, then come back. It'll be easier for you because the number of options would have got reduced by now. Okay, so that is how you have to approach. One more thing. This already we have mentioned it at the initial part of the video. I would just like to stress it again. Do's and don'ts. Reading only the first sentence of each paragraph and trying to find a matching heading is a wrong approach. The first sentence of the paragraph alone will not give you an idea what the paragraph is entirely talking about. Maybe if you read the first sentence and last sentence of a paragraph, and both the first sentence and last sentence convey the same meaning or same idea, we can be sure that the idea which is being discussed in that paragraph is same. But if the first sentence and the last sentence are entirely different, we have to conclude that the idea is being changed inside that paragraph. So never come to a conclusion of what the heading is just by reading the first sentence of the paragraph alone. Read the whole paragraph. So just read the entire paragraph, slide in through the entire paragraph, get the gist of it, and then find or match the heading. Then do not look for matching keywords. A word-to-word match should not be done, or just you find a keyword in the matching heading and you're just looking for a synonym of that and say that okay, this can be the answer. No, you have to read the entire paragraph, think about the meaning of that paragraph, what the entire idea that paragraph is trying to convey. You might not find the same word in the heading that in the paragraph which you are analyzing, but that can be the right answer. So don't go for a word by word match. Rather, you should be thinking about the meaning. Read the paragraph, understand its meaning, and then try to match it with one of the headings. So with that, we come to the end of this video. Hope you found it helpful. We'll be back with more such videos. Stay tuned.
Medcity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.